Let's get inside the mind of a burglar. Hello, I'm Simon from Simon Security Expert, and on today's video we're going to be talking about how burglars think, and by the end of the video you'll understand how they assess a property and how they look for weaknesses and how they target specific sites and how to secure your home or business, because you may very well be accidentally making some of these mistakes. And what I can absolutely guarantee is of the 9 points we're going to go through, some of these you would have never even realised, you would have never even given a thought to some of these, and you would have never realised that some of these points make your property vulnerable. So I really want to start with one where you go, what, really? So let's do it. Let's get into the video. Point number one. Your bins. Where you see waste disposal, right, a burglar sees access, because they can jump onto the bins and then they can easily from there, say, jump over a high fence, get into a much more hidden area such as a back garden where it's much darker and they can much less likely to be seen. So bins is something people don't really think about, because bins, essentially, people often just put them up against their back wall or up against their back gate, not realising that what they've just created there is an access point. So when it comes to your bins, just think about your position, just think about where you're putting them, because they're quite loud, you know, for someone to move around. So burglars don't tend to like to move them if it's somewhere where people are going to see that they're moving them, or it's late at night, you know, because if they're early in the morning trying to break in, people are going to hear them, they're going to hear the bins moving. So they don't really want to go and move the bins, but if they're already in the perfect positions because that's where you've put them, then you've just made your house a potential target. So it's worth just giving a second thought about how you store them. Number two, honestly, if you watch this channel, you will just be thinking, oh, he's going on about this again. But honestly, it's because I really need to. I can't drive it home enough. Lighting. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, lighting, he's going on about lighting again, but it's because it's so unbelievably important. When a burglar is looking at your property, they're seeing if they can work in darkness. Burglars hate the light. They love to work in the dark, especially as we're getting into winter now and the nights are pulling in. That's what they're looking for, because they don't want to be detected. They want to get in and out without being detected, and usually do a few houses in the same street. So they can get to places with your home, or, you know, vulnerable places like back doors and things, or even front doors, where they can't be seen by people late at night. Then that's an absolute winner for them, and it's an absolute loss for you. So always think about your lighting setup. Get security lighting, even if it's solar lighting, which isn't as good as mains run, but still very effective, just to make it so you make it much less attractive to burglars, because when they're walking up, the last thing they want is to be bathed in a big bright light. Get on top of your lighting and you'll make your property much less attractive to burglars. Now let's go on to point number three. Burglar alarm. Burglar alarm is something that all burglars look for when they're casing a property. They want to see what security measures you've got in place, because a loud, audible burglar alarm is an absolute nightmare for them. They don't want to go near a property with that kind of deterrent, because they're going to get detected so fast. So a burglar alarm is something you really need to get if you're looking to make your property as unattractive as possible for any burglar looking to go and break into it. I do have my own burglar alarm, the Godfather security system. So if you are looking for a DIY security system, I'll leave the link in the description. If you do go to use us, it helps the channel, keeps the channel supported, and means I can keep bringing you these videos. So thank you in advance, and thank you to anyone who's bought one so far already. It's a pleasure to have you, and I'm happy I can help you take control of your own security. Which goes on to number four. So let's go on to numero uno, dos, tres, cuatro. Right, number four, one that is probably very unlikely that you've thought of before. Bushes. Now, this is something people don't really even give any consideration to, but when your bushes are getting overgrown, what are you providing there? You're providing cover. You need to keep your shrubbery, yeah, I think that's right, your shrubbery cut back and in check, because the bigger and more wild and overgrown all your stuff in, say, your garden, your front garden gets, the more cover you give to potential burglars. Just keep an eye on it. Don't let it go unchecked, and just keep it in hand and you'll be absolutely fine. Cut it back when you have to. Don't give them any option or any area where they can hide easily. Now let's get on to point number five. Now at first, with this one, you might be a little bit surprised when you read it, because you might think it's actually a solid deterrent to get broken into, but it depends how it's used. high fences. Now, when I put high fences, you might be thinking, well, aren't high fences a good thing because they make it more difficult for a burglar to gain access? Yes, that is the case, but not on their own. Okay, if you have high fences but don't have things like a security setup or great lighting in place, what you're doing is providing even more cover to a burglar. You know, they can get into the back garden. Now you've got these great high fences and they absolutely love it because they've got much more cover and they've got it's much easier for them to hide, much easier for them to try and jimmy the back door open without being seen. High fences on their own can actually be a negative. You need to couple it with other things and then it becomes more of a deterrent because you're making it harder access. They know they're going to get detected. They know they've got a more difficult exit route. But if you just have high fences on their own, it's actually a positive for the burglar and not for you. So let's go on to numero 6. Oh, let's do a better spelling. I don't know how I just misspelled that word. Poor locks. Now, locks are obviously a very important thing when it comes to protecting your home because they're the thing that's going to stop the burglar getting access to the property, and you want to make them solid locks, which means it's going to be a lot harder for them to, say, kick your door in or just easily get past them or pick them or anything like that. And you might think, well, how do they know if I'm going to have bad locks? Well, burglars watch. They often watch properties that they're going to break into later on. It's called casing a joint or casing the property, and they're looking for weak points, and they'll see you leave the house. And let's say if you just pull you, and you know what? I've made this mistake too, so everyone makes this mistake. It's okay. Because I've got a night latch lock on my home door. I've also got a mortise lock, and now I'm much better on locking the mortise lock, but it's easy to just close the door, and they'll see you close the door and they'll know that, oh, there's only a night latch on there, right? They're not very good locks. They're really easy to just kick in because the leverage of when you kick the door and just to break the screws off, because they're only actually as strong as the screws that are holding the lock in. Whereas you've got something like a deadlock or a mortise lock on a wooden door, that's a much stronger lock. If they see you locking those kind of doors, or you know, the rock UPVC doors, if they see you close them over and use the deadlock as well, you make it much more unattractive for them to go and give it a I've used the word unattractive so many times in this video, but anyway, you make it a lot more difficult for them to gain access, and they'll know that. So they'll actually watch the way you lock the door, and if they see that it's going to be difficult to break in, they'll often just stay away anyway because they know it's going to make too much noise, going to be too obvious, and they're going to get detected. Now let's go to number 7. Number 7 is one that burglars love, and that people, it's another one where people just don't realize it's a mistake that they're making. Okay. Bathroom window. Okay, burglars will often look at a bathroom window because what's commonplace with a bathroom window? You leave it open a lot, don't you? So they've now got an access point, you know, to let the steam out. Burglars will look and they'll see where the bathroom is. And often if people say have a shower at night or anything like that, they might go to bed or they might leave the house in the morning with the bathroom window open just to vent out, you know, the bathroom essentially, and vent out all the steam. And what you've done is just given them a really easy access point. And typically people don't have as strong security measures on, say, a first floor, so, or as an American would say, a second floor. So burglars will often love to get access into those points, and they might be able to get access, say there's been like ladders left in the back garden or something they can get up on in order to get into the bathroom window. And what you've actually given them there is a very vulnerable access point. So think about your bathroom window, and you know, if you can, when you're going out or when you're going to bed, close it, keep it locked, and that's another thing ticked off the list to stop them getting into your property. Now let's get on to the next one about what burglars think about and for how to deter them. Outhouses, things like sheds, things like, you know, detached garages. Burglars will often try and get access to those places because they have really valuable goods. People leave things like bikes in there that are worth like thousands of pounds without any protection. So how do you protect these areas if you haven't already? Well, say if you've got a wireless security system, you know, say it's a detached outhouse or shed or garage or anything like that, put detection in there. have a motion sensor inside the garage, just to mean when anyone gets access into there, it's going to trigger the alarm and it's going to go off. They'll know they've been detected and they'll run a mile before they'll actually get anything of any value. But it's all too common that people just don't think about these places and they don't protect them. Even if it's a shed at the bottom of the garden, but you know you've got valuable stuff in there, for example, then you want to put a detector in there. Or even if you haven't got valuables in there, if you put a detector in there and just someone's sneaking around and they want to have a look, at least you've got them very early and they'll run a mile without coming and checking some other place of the house. They know the house is well protected and they'll know to stay away. But it's an area people often overlook and they often don't think about. But if you've got outhouses, sheds, garages, things like that you say not attached, protect them with your security system and you'll make your house even stronger again. Now let's go on to the last point. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Flat roofs. Now, people often don't think about flat roofs because they just don't really think of it as an access point. But so let's imagine you've had an extension, and someone could jump up onto a flat roof, and then they can get access to, say, a bedroom window without being detected, because a lot of times people don't have motion sensors and things in their bedrooms. Obviously they're using it at night and they're going to sleep, so they know they can get access to these areas, even though it's more uncommon for them to go to these areas. When burglars know what they're doing and they have experience in the game, they'll go for areas where they can try and break in without being detected at all. So flat roofs is something you really need to look out for. Now, if you've got flat roofs, there's things you can do to protect the area. Obviously have lighting in the area, beneath it and things like that, but put security measures, say, on the window. Maybe it's an opening contact on a window, of a bedroom, for example, or a bathroom. If you do that, it means when the system's set and they try and jimmy the window open to get in, it's going to trigger the alarm. But it is an aspect of a house that burglars will look for, and they'll look for it because it's a great way for them to get in, one without them being detected, say in like a back garden, and one they know or they think an alarm's not going to go off because it's not often a place that is secured. That's all 9 points, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. It's great to have you here. See you on the next one.